Hello to everyone and welcome to our very special bonus end of year special in the Tight 20 marketing series from Ballyhoo Digital, where we give you real, actionable marketing advice in a compact format that does not waste your time. Today, I am your moderator. My name is Brian Petrovich. In today's bonus episode of the Tight marketing series, we discuss how explosive growth can come from smart marketing with the right budget. Today, we'll talk about how to set your digital marketing budget to make the coming year one of your best. Now, today is a bit different. We are dispensing with our 20-minute format for this episode, as we have much to cover and want to give you as much information as we can to help with your budgeting. We will also have a brief Q&A at the end, so please submit any questions via chat, and we will do our best to answer them as clearly as possible. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce the founder and owner of Ballyhoo Digital, Scott Hicks.
Hello, everyone. Brian, thank you so much for the introduction there. Oh, I've got this wonderful background here that we're supposed to have something a little different.
I think you're playing golf today.
Let's see if we can get the right one up for this. I was on another Zoom meeting earlier today, and that was we were playing around with a few different backgrounds for that, and so we just had a good time. Let's see if we can get a proper one up here. I do want to say again, thank you to everyone for joining us. There we go. And I especially want to thank anyone who is a veteran or a family member of a veteran. We really want to thank you for your service and your sacrifice. It's a fantastic thing that you guys have done in service of our country. So thank you very much. As Brian said, we are definitely this is a little bit longer episode. It's a bonus episode. We've gotten so many questions about how to set budgets and things like that over the years. And particularly since we started doing this this series of webinars, we talk a lot about sort of the nuts and bolts of different types of digital marketing, but we haven't really covered a lot about budgeting. And because this is the time of year when people start putting together budgets for the coming year, we decided to sort of interrupt our normal flow of webinars and put this special one out. So. Let's go ahead and get started because, like Brian said, we do have a lot to cover, and we want to make sure that you guys have all the information you need. So let's see here. We are going to start in one. There we go. And hopefully, all right, Brian. Hang on one second. We're going to change the screen share again real quick. There we go. All right. Hopefully you guys can see this. Again, this is the Tight 20. Usually it's marketing results in 20 minutes, but we got decided to do something a little different today and expand this. Well, we think it's going to take about an hour, but I'll be honest, I haven't really timed it. So let's get on with it. Getting started with budgeting. A couple of things here. First of all, there will be math in this. We want to do this properly. We want everyone to get the most that they can out of this. And if you really want to set a marketing budget, you're going to have to do some real math, obviously. It's not too complicated. There's some formulas, but it's not calculus that we're working on here. So you'll need to gather some data. If you really want to do this right, you need sales numbers for your organization and customer info. If you want to be accurate, and in marketing, the greater the data accuracy you have, the better you're able to lower your risk and improve your investments in marketing. So super important there. Best estimates. Yeah, we'll probably have to use some of those. Every new marketing campaign has variables, every single one. So there will have to be some estimates until more data is acquired. And we'll circle back to that. But your best digital marketing campaigns, or best marketing campaigns in general, will improve as you're able to gather data and adjust as you go. So that's sort of the basics. The first thing you need to do before you do anything with your marketing is you have to figure out what it is you want to achieve. This is hugely important. A lot of folks are just like, well, I want business growth. Well, that's fine. I mean, everybody wants business growth, and that's great. But again, dialing it in a little bit more allows you to become more involved in the process. It allows you to work with your digital marketers to really to drive the specific goals that are going to make your business more successful. So a lot of folks will go with gross revenue. They want to increase gross revenue over the coming year. Another good goal is increasing net profits. Obviously related. A lot of folks that we talk to want to add new customers. These are all very good goals. What you'll notice that they all have in common is basically they drive the dollar. These are all dollar-driven things. Now, if you are interested in marketing if you're a large company and you're thinking about reputation and things like that, then you're talking about branding, and that is an entirely different type of marketing with different types of goals. But most of the companies that we work with, when you start improving the bottom line, that's when they're happiest. And that works well for us too. Another thing you have to think about is what percentage are you going to be spending on digital marketing, or what percentage of your growth should come from digital marketing, we should say. A lot of folks still do traditional types of marketing, whether it's print ads or radio or television or things like that. And if that's working for you, we certainly are not going to necessarily try to dissuade you from continuing with those. But if you have a goal of, let's just say, 30% growth in the coming year, you have to spend some time thinking about where that growth is going to come from and what part of that growth is going to come from the digital marketing. And so you have some concrete numbers and concrete things to shoot for when you're actually setting up your budget. So let's bring down the whiteboard here. We're going to talk about a few different concepts here. This is where the math comes in. And again, it's not too difficult, but all of these definitions and concepts that we're going to talk about here are important. The first one is lifetime value, also known as LTV. And this is, we've defined it as the average value of all customer purchases from first purchase to last. So what is a customer worth? What is each of your customers worth to you? Definitely one of the most important numbers that you can have in this. And one of the numbers that I would say is most overlooked when businesses are looking at their data. We'll give you a couple of examples here of lifetime value of a customer. If you have a service that sells for $49 a month and your average customer sticks around for 18 months, that means the LTV is $882. Your customer is worth $882 in revenue over their lifetime. Of course, there are different types of businesses, and you don't necessarily have subscription business for everything. But let's say, for example, you have a business and there's a $75 average purchase, and there are 9 purchases on average for each customer. That means their lifetime value is $675. Again, and there are a number of different ways to look at this, but you really have to go in and you've got to crunch the numbers. You got to look at the data to get this sorted out. Again, if you want to be the most accurate, if you want to have the best chance of success with your marketing, this is the place to start. All right. Now we're going to go with one called net lifetime value. That's a small n LTV. And that's the LTV times your profit margin. That profit margin excludes marketing costs. So this is where you actually figure out what the customer is in net profit to you. Pretty simple. We'll use that example from earlier. $882 LTV times 40% profit equals $353 of net lifetime value per client. So the reason this is important, obviously, is if you just stick with the $882 amount for each customer, you could theoretically convince yourself you could pay $700 for a new client and come out ahead. But that's not really true because that's not actual profit. So now you know at this point your net profit or net lifetime value of a customer is $353. It means if you pay anything less than $353 to acquire that client, that is a profitable client or customer. Again, I'll repeat that. If you pay less than the NLTV in marketing to acquire a new customer, then that is a profitable customer. Now, how much you should pay, we can get to that later. So let's move on here. The next concept is closing rate, C small l r. Closing rate is really how well you sell leads. So that is to say, it's the number of new customers divided by the number of leads times 100. So it's expressed as a percentage. When you get a lead or an opportunity to sell somebody or sign someone up as a client or customer, how many of those are you successful with, and how many are you not successful with? Here's an example. If you had 26 leads that came through your website and you got 6 new customers out of them, then you'd have 23% close rate, which, again, that can be good or bad. It depends on your particular circumstances, what you're trying to, what service or product that you're selling. Generally speaking, the bigger ticket items, you have a lower closing rate, or certainly a longer sales cycle, but generally a lower closing rate. Again, this is a number that a lot of companies don't really work on very much. And this is a really important thing because particularly if you have salespeople, you really need to know the closing rate. Sometimes your marketing is doing fine, but if you're not paying attention to the closing rate, then you don't know if it's a marketing issue or if it's a salesperson issue. So anyway, this number will become important momentarily. I want to talk about another number here also. This one is conversion rate. And conversion rate is the number of conversions divided by the number of potential conversions times 100. Again, expressed as a percentage. So a conversion is usually also known as a lead. That can be someone picking up the phone and calling you after going to your website, filling out a form. If you have an e-commerce site where you really don't have direct interaction with your customers necessarily in order to convince them to buy something, a conversion can be the actual sale itself. So that can be very close to the closing rate we talked about in the earlier on the previous slide. Again, here's an example. If you have 4 new leads that have 4 telephone calls from 25 clicks on ads, that gives you a 16% conversion rate. And I know this is a little bit dry, guys, and feel free to take any screenshots. We're going to have this video available on YouTube, and we'll get it back out on LinkedIn and things like that, so you can go back and take a look at it. I know, again, all this is going to make sense, hopefully, by the time we're finished. But all of these numbers are how you work backwards from what you are trying to achieve to how to achieve it in marketing and how to set that budget, how to know how much to spend for that. So we'll move on to the next one. And this next one is cost per lead. So now we're getting really close to how much is it really going to cost us to acquire a new customer. The cost per lead is the amount you've spent on a particular marketing channel, or and divided by the number of leads you've gotten out of it. So, for example, if you got 150 ad clicks times $2 per click, that's $300 spent. So you got the amount spent is $300. That's 150 potential leads, right? So 150 ad clicks is 150 potential leads, and you've got a 16% conversion rate. That means you've gotten 24 leads out of that. So 300 divided by 24 is $12.50 cost per lead. So that's not entirely correct. Remember before when we talked about we weren't including the marketing costs? This is where we're going to include them. So let's scratch this out. We're going to say 150 clicks times $2 a click plus a $500 marketing fee means you spent $800. So maybe you spend $500 per month on managing your ads. That means you've spent $800 for those 150 potential leads, and $800 divided by 8 is $33 cost per lead. Actually, this should be, I apologize, guys, this should be $800 divided by 24. moving on, we're going to go to the cost per acquisition because this is really where we wanted to end up here. The cost per acquisition is the cost per lead divided by the closing rate. So if you have a $33, if your CPA is $33, you divide that by 23%, then you come up with a $143 cost per acquisition, which again, depending on the type of business you're in, that can be expensive or it can be pretty inexpensive. And all of these numbers will vary widely depending on the type of business that you're in. We'll talk about that in the end as well. True net profit, that's your net LTV minus that's net lifetime value minus your cost per acquisition. But you go back to that very beginning numbers we were using where we had the net LTV of $353 and we subtract $143 for your cost per acquisition, you've got $210 in true net profit. So every customer, every client then is going to be $210 extra in your pocket using all these formulas. I hope this is making sense so far, guys. I can only tell you that it made great sense to me when I was putting this together for you, because this is what we do every day. And I can understand that this is a lot of concepts thrown at you all at once. And obviously that's why we record these so that you can go back over and look at them again when you have the opportunity. So again, if you want to do any screen captures or anything like that, that's perfectly fine with all of these formulas. I know it can be a little bit confusing. So there are some different variables here that you have to take into account when you're actually putting together the budget beyond just understanding the terms and the math. You have to understand different marketing channels are different. That is to say that email versus paid per click or PPC advertising or SEO, you get different types of individuals and different types of leads from those different sources. And there can be different costs involved. There almost certainly will be different costs involved. But beyond that, it would be difficult. It would be wrong, really, to suspect that each of those different types of marketing would have the same click-through rates, the same number of leads, the same motivation for the people who are actually coming through those different channels. For example, if you get someone who has found you via organic search on the internet, they tend to be more motivated. Not always, but they tend to be more motivated than people who have found you through or clicked on on an ad that you've run. So these are things to keep in mind. And you remember when we were talking about best estimates? Digital marketers most often have to use best estimates for costs and conversion rates until more data is gathered, because no two businesses are alike. We've worked with a lot of different types of businesses and in a lot of businesses that are in the same industry. And they have different goals. They have different things that they want to achieve. They have different services, even within the same industry, that they're able to either be profitable or not be profitable on. There are things that they like to do more than other things. So their goals can be different even within the same industry. So we have to keep all of that in mind. The very best tools that digital marketers have are best estimates. So again, even when we've worked with clients in the same industry as other clients we've worked with and been successful with, we still have to make some estimates up front. The important thing is the more data we are able to acquire, or you're able to acquire through your marketing, the more accurate your marketing can be and the more accurate your projections can be. Which means basically we can, as any campaign sort of matures, you're able to fine tune those campaigns and make them better as they go. And that is the case in pretty much every single marketing campaign we've ever done here. There's always opportunities to learn things through the data and make the campaigns better, which gives you a better return, which is, of course, what we're all kind of looking for anyway. All right. So let's talk about pricing here. How do you price digital marketing? It can be tricky, sure. There's some things to look at. The length of engagement. You know, some some companies will require multi-month retainers. Usually 6 to 12 month agreements, but it depends. Depends on the organization that you're working with. Generally speaking, multi-month retainers, they're a good idea for both parties because you generally need to commit. Most companies will need to commit to at least running things for several months to gather enough data to find out where they can be successful or how successful they can be with that particular marketing channel. There are some project-based types of things. We've done a number of different individual project-based things where people need a one-off advertising or marketing campaign, but they're not going to need us for a long time. So those things, if you have certain specific needs, but you don't have regular needs, you have to think about project-based campaigns. Hourly rates for most digital marketers, $85 to $200 up an hour. That's basically the way where the industry is. I'd say it depends to some degree on where you're located, how much somebody is going to charge you. If you are interested in working with somebody who's local, people in New York who are located in New York are going to charge more. People in San Francisco are going to charge more. However, the great thing about digital marketing is that there is no specific need for anyone to be in any particular one place. If you are an international business, it will probably help you to have some native speakers in the countries that you're trying to operate in, or at least have a digital marketing group that has that kind of expertise or the ability to outsource some things to folks overseas. But generally speaking, most of the clients we work with are domestic clients who have domestic customers of their own. So anyway, hourly rates, again, $85 to $200 an hour plus. Anything less than $85, I would be careful about. You may have some freelancers out there who are not entirely reliable for less than that. And of course they may be completely reliable, but that's the gist of where the costs are, the pricing is for digital marketing. Okay, so we're going to go over a few things. How do you price the individual different types of marketing? SEO, almost always fee-based. That is, there's a flat fee that you will be charged per month for SEO. If you are not especially familiar with SEO, please keep in mind that it is this will almost always be a multi-month engagement. SEO takes some time to get done. So keep that in mind, that you're not going to do, SEO is not a one-off thing where you go, okay, I'm going to get my SEO done this month and that's going to be it. It's an ongoing process. So keep that in mind. And also, as we go through these, again, keep in mind that all businesses are different. And a lot of this pricing is going to be based on a number of different factors. We'll try to discuss a few of those. The SEO, $500 to $2,500 plus per month. $500 probably is going to be on the small end for a small local business that has a limited geography that they're trying to be found in, and they're trying to do their work in. $2,500 a month is probably your larger national clients who may have some competition, and it takes more work and effort to get their SEO correct and get them actually driving traffic through SEO. So some of the things to the variables within that are, like I said, geography depends on where you're located. A home builder in Los Angeles is going to be, he's going to have more competition. It's going to be more difficult for him than it would be, say, somebody in maybe probably Lubbock, Texas, for example. Just throwing some things out there. So your geography does matter. Your competition within that geography matters. Again, if you are if you're a small local company and you don't have a lot of competitors in what the services and products that you offer, competition is less of a factor. If you're in a big metropolitan area and you have lots of folks who are doing what you do, then that's going to come into it as well. So that's going to be more costly. The technology that you're using can have some effect on it as well. Certain types of technology, and when we say that, we're talking about your website mostly. Your platform can have a bearing on what how challenging it can be to get you great SEO, get your site optimized. So one of the great things about SEO, though, is that when you implement it and it's going well, it starts to build on itself. And if you're not really doing any SEO and you're not getting a lot of organic traffic or a lot of clients or customers from more organic traffic initially, as you spend that money, you will begin and you start to reap the benefits of it. You'll get more and more clients and customers. So you're actually, while your fees will stay the same as they should, the cost per acquisition goes down because the SEO actually builds on itself. So that's actually one of the things we love about SEO. Moving on, search ads. So if you're advertising on Google search, then you can expect that there are some flat fee companies, and there's companies that charge a percentage of the actual ad spend. Sometimes it's a combination of both. Generally speaking, you're going to pay $500 minimum per month as a management fee for a paid search campaign. And if there's a percentage of ad spend, then it generally will run from 15 to 30% of the ad spend as well. And when we say ad spend, we're talking about the actual cost per click. So if you hire somebody at $500 a month flat fee to do management, you're still going to have to do your management. You have to add to that the actual cost per click. So, again, that can vary, and that's going to depend on a lot of other factors as well, including geography, competition, and the scale of your campaigns. A $500 a month management fee is going to be for your basic campaigns. But if you have a really large campaign, if you have a large number of campaigns, you offer a lot of different products and services over a large geographic area, and there's a lot of competition. All of those things mean that it's going to be more work on the digital marketing side, on the agency side of things, trying to get them up and running and successful. So you can expect these numbers, probably not the ad spend number to go up, but you can expect a flat fee to go up based on that. As an aside, Ballyhoo Digital, we're a flat fee organization. Doing the actual percentage of ad spend is a holdover, we think, from the days of print ads and things like that. And it doesn't seem to us, honestly, we're more comfortable doing a flat fee. So just to let you know, but it really, depends on who you're working with there. Email. This one's not so bad. Email generally is fee-based, and you have to also count on, if you're not doing email advertising already, you'll need to pay for an email service provider. We're big fans of MailChimp, but there are others out there. Bronto is a great one. Silverpop for big enterprises. There are a ton of other things as well, other email service providers. And you can go back to our webinar on our webinar series, mini-series there on email marketing. And you can learn a bit more about that. But there's going to be a cost. I think the least expensive MailChimp, I'm thinking you can get in there for $10, but probably about $40 if you have a decent number of per month of customers or clients or people on your list that you're emailing to. Some of the variables that will change the pricing for email. And again, this is why this one's hard to put even a range of numbers on. How often are you going to be sending emails out? Are you going to be providing the creatives, that is the actual email designs, or are you going to be asking your digital marketers to do that for you? Also, what are your list building efforts going to look like? So if you have an email list and you want to do email marketing to your existing clients, that's great. If you don't have one, how are you going to build the list, and how much effort is going to be required to get a list together? As an aside, and we mentioned this in our again in our email webinars, don't buy lists. You can rent a list, but don't buy a list. Just a bad idea all around. So, excuse me. So this one's this is pretty challenging. Again, it depends on your specific requirements within this. What is the right frequency for email? 2 to 5 times a week, we'd say. So you're looking at 2 to 5 different creatives every single week. So somewhere between 8 and 20 individually designed email pieces that have to go out. And that's where probably the largest part of most email campaigns, the actual resources and labor that are required actually are in putting those creatives together. So, social media advertising. Well, actually, there's a couple of different ways to do social media. Obviously, there's organic posting, which is just posts on your business page. As long as you're not promoting them, then they're free to create and put up there. But you'll have to count on there being, again, it's usually a fee-based thing for organic posting because there's no percentage of anything. If you're doing actual advertisements on social media, it's much like your standard search ads. There can be a flat fee or a percentage of ad spend or a combination of the two. The fee structure is usually pretty similar, $500 a month plus per month, and or 15 to 30% of your ad spend. The variables here are, again, how frequently are you posting or how frequently are you putting ads out? The creation of those creatives, the creation of those ads, or the creation of those posts, that takes time. And the scale really is how big of a campaign are you looking to do? And keep in mind that if you're running ads on Facebook, for example, Instagram, anywhere else, any of the other social media channels, they actually, the creatives, that is the ads themselves, if you're looking at display ads, they have to be changed more frequently than normal search ads. They lose their effectiveness much more quickly. And so keep that in mind when you're trying to decide on how you want to do your social media in the coming year, that you're going to have to keep in there that those creatives are going to happen more often. There's going to be more resources tied up in creating new ads than in other forms of advertising and marketing. Let's see. So display ads and others, these are often a case-by-case basis. When we say display ads, we're talking about ads that are on specific websites that might be industry related. For example, online industry publications and industry email ads. Those are two really good ones that we've had success with. So if you are, for example, if you are a business to business seller, you may find that there are, well, I'm sure you know that there are multiple industry associations that you can probably reach out to and advertise on their website. You can advertise, again, in their emails, things like that. But it's highly, highly variable how much that will cost. We've seen numbers all over the map. Those industry associations, for example, they can have a couple thousand members. They can have 100,000 members. Those things kind of play into how much it's going to cost to advertise in those. So again, the frequency with which you have to run display ads, or you want to run display ads, is going to be a determining factor in the pricing there. The individual pricing from those individual publications, and again, the creatives always are a factor. How much you need to spend on how much you need to spend for display ads and others. So thinking ahead, this is an important thing when you're setting up your budget as well. you need to be prepared for strategic adjustments, which is to say that as we go back to what we said before, it's hard to guarantee any results. Every single new marketing campaign is experimental to a degree. If you know this up front, then this really it probably isn't so much about, it won't necessarily change the budget that you've allocated, but where you're actually going to be spending those allocated funds. If you come across something that does not work, for example, there's no sense in running a particular type of campaign for an entire year just because you've budgeted money for it. Be prepared to shift that money and use it somewhere else for other marketing initiatives. The flip side of that is that you should build in, hopefully you have an opportunity to build in room for scaling. So if you're setting up your budget for the coming year and you are working with a reputable digital marketing agency, then you will know that whether or not you're being successful. You will know essentially whether or not you're being profitable with those campaigns. If you are successful with those campaigns, if you're bringing in more clients or customers and you're bringing in more revenue, maybe try to think about in the beginning, prior to all of that, say, okay, well, if we're bringing in, say, 50% more revenue by the end of the first quarter, can we increase our budgeting as we go and put more money at the thing, put more money towards those marketing channels that are working, that are driving the growth? So that's a really great thing, and it's already paid for. If you have positive ROI, then that the additional investment will already be paid for. So if you have the opportunity to set that up, at least as an option in the beginning, then I definitely recommend that. And build in some one-offs. So think about your marketing too. Again, mostly what we've talked about here are recurring marketing expenses that you can probably count on month after month. But you may have, in your industry or your specific area, you may have some types of individual marketing requirements. You may have holidays or other special event promotions where you're just going to do a couple of times a year. You're just going to do an individual campaign around that, or new product launches or things like that. And they don't really necessarily fall into something you're going to do every month of the year. But if you can forecast or foresee those types of one-off projects, then you want to use those. You want to build that in with the rest of everything else. And I think that's going to cover it for us. I hope we've given you guys lots of good information here. And I know that I like these to be a little more fun. This one tends to be a little more dry. It is budgeting after all, and it is numbers. But we wanted to try to give you some better information on how to make this work for you and your company. And again, there are so many variables, as you've seen, that we can't just throw numbers out there and say this is how you do it. But if you work through the formulas that we have, if you've gathered the data on your business, you can work backwards from the value of your clients and your profitability toward how much you should spend on gaining every new client or customer, and then work with a good agency or digital marketer to come up with pricing that fits what you need to accomplish. And with that, I think we're just going to open this up to some questions.
God, that was fantastic. And we do have some questions. You're not done just yet. We have some more work for you there. Couple questions we have here. First one, really, really good question. Is there a guideline for how much I should spend on marketing?
There is sort of a guideline, yeah. In the old days, there was the rule of thumb was 15% of revenue should be spent on marketing. And I've seen some things from the Small Business Administration that show, 12%. The answer to that is it depends on a couple of factors. What is the profitability of the products that you sell, and what is the scale of your operation? If you have, say, a 10% profit margin on products that you sell, but you're selling them in large numbers all across the country, then I'd say you can play around with that number a bit. Likewise, if you have a 70% profit margin, you can probably do more than 15% of your revenue in marketing. Those are the biggest factors. There is your scale and the percentage of profitability there, and what you're comfortable with. What do you want to make? Remember, we talked about setting goals, and the more specific you can get about your goals. Let's say if you just want to increase gross revenue, that's fine. But if you want to say I want to do another $250,000 in profit this year, well, that's going to that can change all those calculations. So like I said, 15% is a rule of thumb, but again, there are so many other variables that go into that you kind of have to think, what profit am I going to be happy with? What in the after marketing costs, what profit am I going to be happy with?
Perfect. Thank you for that. Next question, just a reminder to anybody listening, if you have a question, pop it in the chat. We'll make sure we answer it. Next question, Scott, is where should I start if I have a limited budget and can't afford all the options?
Oh, that's a great question. And one we get pretty often too, by the way. Where to start? For most companies, we found the highest success and the fastest success with paid search advertising. That is search engine advertising, Google Ads. It's not necessarily the cheapest, although it can be. The cost per click can vary widely. I mean, if we use the example of $2 per click, but that's just a number. It depends on what you're selling. If you are an attorney, a personal injury attorney, you're probably going to pay $70 a click. Again, and that's all. This depends on your geography too. If you're trying to sell replacement windows, $30 a click, and $20 to $30 per click. So it can be a little bit more expensive with PPC, but again, it tends to work more quickly. You can drive traffic to your site pretty much immediately upon starting pay-per-click advertising. So if you don't have the opportunity to choose all of them, I would probably go with PPC first. If you are an established business and you have an email list of customers, your current customers, and you feel like you can increase your revenues from those current customers, that's a good place to start too. So you might choose email instead. SEO, it's tricky for me to put this one toward the bottom of the list, because the sooner you start SEO, the sooner you're going to see results. However, the results do not appear as quickly as other marketing channels. But again, we talked about the scalability of SEO and how it grows over time. And that means that if you can afford to start sooner rather than later, we definitely advise that. Social media marketing, that also depends probably upon your industry. Some industries, social media marketing is great for, and some it is less great for. If you are a restaurant, that's probably a really good place to go. If you're a retailer, if you sell actual goods, particularly if you're an e-commerce, an online retailer, then those ads tend to work really well. Others, again, less so. Generally speaking, I think that there are faster ways to get results than social media. So I would put that a little further on the list for honestly, 95% of businesses. Hope that answers the question.
I think it did. Thank you so much for that.
That was a lengthy answer.
No, but it was a good answer. Scott, it looks like that is going to be it today for questions.
All right, terrific. Well, listen, I want to thank everybody who attended here today. Again, we'll have this on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and you guys can check it out there. And if you have any other questions that you just want some additional information, you can reach out to us at ballyhoodigital.com. You can find us there. We're happy to give advice and help folks any way we can. Again, thank you to all the veterans out there today, and thank you for attending. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with part 2 of our SEO series. Have a great day, everyone.